right, so we'll start up here. My name is Jack Weber. I practice Chinese medicine. I'm also a poet and an author, an activist, an organic farmer here on the Big Island. Thank you. So I often pause when I speak because I don't have all this planned out, and I sort of wait for the inspiration to come. So when I pause, just bear with me. Chinese medicine is a beautiful system of medicine, and one of the most crucial aspects of it, and an aspect which is especially beneficial for us at this time and age when we have our ecology in dire straits, humanity at the precipice of its own annihilation. We have some great problems in the world. And while science is a wonderful development of the last 200 years or so, I find that what's lacking in the world today is a comprehensive mythology and morality that's included with our progress and our way of living and doing business in the world. So when I first went to Chinese medicine school, I was fascinated with this diagram. And this is the yin-yang symbol. I'm sure you all recognize it. And hopefully by the end of tonight, you'll understand it a lot more and understand its tremendous beauty and its tremendous importance for our day and age. How many, by a show of hands, know a little bit about yin and yang theory? All right. How many know a little bit about 5 elements? All right. So the 5 elements are wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And these 5 elements are a further differentiation of yin and yang. So yang over here on the left is characterized by light in a very general sense, while yin is characterized by dark. And I made a little list down here on the left of yang characteristics and yin characteristics, which I'll be referring to during the presentation. Okay, a little note about Earth. So Earth is the central metaphor about which I'll be speaking tonight. And there are Chinese medicine is very old, so different schools of thought, the earth element was placed at different locations along the cycle of the 5 elements. One of those, I believe that the more ancient model has earth as the center, which is very fitting. So earth is at the center, wood is over here on the left, fire is at the top, metal's over here, water's at the bottom. Another place that earth came in, which has more to do with 5-element theory as it relates to acupuncture, is putting earth over here in between fire and metal. So we're going to kind of be a little bit loose with earth. So it's going to be symbolically in the center is the center of our lives and the body of sustenance, which supports all of life on the planet. And it's also going to be over here in a certain progression that I describe later on. So when I was originally in school, we go to medical school and we study all about disease and pathology. And it's great to help heal people. And what I was always very fascinated by, having fallen in love with poetry at a very young age, and also this passion in me to live fully and to know what it is to be a full human being. The 5 elements struck me as this model of wholeness. That's what it is. This is a model of wholeness. And it's a model of wholeness for our physical existence, what happens emotionally in us, and what and how we operate spiritually. So, as a model of wholeness and as a model of health and wellness, the 5 elements show us how we can live full lives, how we can be the most of ourselves. And as a system of healing, it's applicable not only to individual human beings, but to systems. One of those systems is the entire world. So tonight I will try to demonstrate how the 5 elements in yin and yang can be used to sort of diagnose our planetary condition. So as climate change gets worse and worse, as corporations the world over take over our food systems, our medical systems, our economy, we find ourselves in a difficult situation. And these enterprises, these forces in the world today, can all be sort of looked at on the yang side of things. So yang representing this light, right? This activity, this outwardness. So yang represents externality, yin represents internality. Yin represents the body of the earth, yang represents sort of the activity about the earth. So a little bit about logic and rationality that sort of goes hand in hand with science and technology and our linear way of thinking about things these days. We have a lot of information in the world. What we're lacking in is wisdom. The ancient systems from the East have a lot of wisdom to offer. And while these systems have been criticized, the mythology, the philosophy, the religions of the past have been criticized as inaccurate and fantasy, which might be true. It's important not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And what these systems actually offer us, as demonstrated here in yin and yang and the 5 elements, is a mythology and a philosophy and a morality of wholeness that ties humanity intimately and inextricably with the earth. So we don't have that in our modern, progressive culture. It's lacking. And this is the precise lack which is driving the planet into a very dangerous situation. So as a Chinese medicine physician, I can't help but look at the world and think about how each of us can embody these 5 elements. And the subtitle of the talk tonight was Becoming Medicine for Our Times. So what is it to become medicine for our times? So one aspect of medicine, let me just pause for 1 second. One aspect of medicine is to apply medicine. So we practice acupuncture. We go to the doctor for tests. They administer treatment to us. So this is sort of the technical practice of medicine. And there's another aspect of medicine which I'd like to talk to you about tonight, which is becoming medicine. How I sometimes call it the inner path of sustainability. So we have a lot of facts. Science has told us what we need to do. The ice caps are melting, or have too much carbon output, so we need to reduce all these things. Yet, even with that knowledge, we're not doing it. Right? Obama just made a commitment to reduce carbon emissions by 17% or something in so many years a couple months ago, and everyone got real excited about that, except the scientists say it's not nearly enough. So we've already created this momentum of change upon the Earth, and a lot of scientists, the preponderance of scientists, say that it's already too late in a lot of ways, and we're sort of right at that turning point where we can really make some radical changes, or we're going to have some radical suffering in the years to come. So this aspect of becoming medicine is embodying completely this cycle of the 5 elements, embodying yin and yang. So seeing that our world is perverted, we have what I call a perverse yang situation in the world. And that means that this light, progressive, external, showy meme is too predominant. And when one of these aspects, when yin or yang is too predominant, it creates an imbalance in the system. So, if we're the cause of global warming and climate change and the other problems, it stands to reason that we're also the cure for it. So, again, back to this analogy of medicine. So we can apply medicine in the same way that we can do different things. We can recycle. We can do all these things individually to sort of help the situation. Yet it's much more deeply entrenched than that. So to heal in a collective way, I believe and I feel that we all need to go through a radical transformation in ourselves, in the way we go about our lives, and especially, as I'll talk about a little bit later on, how we deal with our emotions and how we deal with the atrocities of the world. So just to sum that up, there's this application of medicine, and what I'm here to talk to you tonight about is the becoming of medicine. So actually becoming these vessels that go into the world, and by our presence, by our actions, by the love and the compassion, the empathy that we exhibit in the world, we do our part for this. So over the last couple of weeks in preparation for this talk, I pulled out a few quotes and a couple poems, not of my own, and I'd like to just read those to sort of introduce the next part of the talk. So one I forgot to print out, so I have to get my computer. This is a Rumi poem, and I curtailed it a little bit. It's called The Silent Articulation of the Face. And I realized on my way over here tonight that just the title is demonstrative of the theme and the metaphor of tonight. And one of those themes is paradox. Paradox is not enough appreciated way of being and conceptualization. Yin and yang is actually a paradoxical system of wholeness, because yang is always turning into yin and yin is always turning into yang. So when you think that things are very dark, it's really just in preparation for this wonderful purified light in the yang phase. And when you think everything is going extremely well in the yang phase, right around the corner is darkness. So anyway, I'm getting back to this yin and yang diagram. So actually that's what these two little, God, I really put myself in a jam here. So that's what this dark circle in yang means, and that's what this bright circle in yin means. It means that in yang, there's always the seed of yin. So within light, there's always the seed of darkness, and that's the integration that we're talking about. So integrity is another key word we're going to be discussing tonight. And inside yin, in this darkness, is the seed of yang. And it's a beautiful philosophy, because it means that we don't, as is the case in the world today, we don't get carried away with this extroverted, bright, showy, consumerism yang energy without limits. And what this seed means is that you have to remember the dark side of life, the difficult side of life, the side of life that goes to rest, the side of life that goes inward, the side of life that declines and is annihilated, but in a way that is fertile and which is healthy. And I differentiate between fertile darkness, which is on the inside, and infertile darkness. Fertile darkness is where we're conscious, we're aware. We consciously engage this cycle of life. Infertile darkness is where we ignore the inside of life. We ignore the difficulty. We ignore leaving the fields fallow and spray them with pesticides and herbicides and artificial fertilizers and burn out the soil. That's excess yang. So permaculture is a wonderful metaphor and practice for how to go about this cycle of balance within the 5 elements in yin and yang. So when yin is denied, when it's repressed, it becomes infertile yin. It becomes darkness as we see acting on the planet today, where we have maniacal, sociopathic industries on the planet ruining the party for those of us who are satisfied with beauty, who are satisfied with nature, who are satisfied with one another, with friendship, with community. I could go. I'll never get to that Rumi poem. Another theme I want to bring out tonight is the aspect of pain. Pain is the yin side of life. Pain is stigmatized, ostracized. Our difficult emotions are not openly and widely supported. They're given lip service at best. And I'll show more of that in the progression of the 5 elements, and how actually embodying and embracing our difficult emotions, like sadness, that corresponds with the mental phase, earth, which is the emotion of worry and self-reflection, and the emotion of water, way down at the bottom of the yin cycle, which is fear. And the flavor of the water element is actually better represented by death and total annihilation, but in a way that's not negative, in a way that's restoratively negative. Because right after you get through this great darkness in the yin phase, you come into this light in the yang phase. And if you've done your work and really embraced this yin phase, you stand the chance to really bring something beautiful and integrated into the world in the yang phase. Instead of just floating about here in this, superficial love and light aspect of the yang phase, which has its place as long as we're also welcoming and open to when life turns the other way into the yin phase. So before I keep going, I'm going to try to get this Rumi poem out. Get rid of this computer. I started with paradox. Okay, the silent articulation of a face. So to articulate is usually to say, I keep this thing on my chin, it's annoying. To say something. So this is the silence of saying something. So in the spirit of paradox, in this full circle of life, the silent articulation of a face. Love comes with a knife. Love, okay, on the subject of deep love. So what is deep love compared to ordinary love? And we'll go more into this, but this poem shares a little bit about what deep love is. Love comes with a knife, not some shy question. Love comes with a knife, not some shy question, and not with fears for its reputation. I say these things disinterestedly, accept them in kind. Love is a madman, working his wild schemes, tearing off his clothes, running through the mountains, drinking poison, and now quietly choosing annihilation. There are love stories, and there is obliteration into love. There are love stories, and there is obliteration into love. You've been walking the ocean's edge, holding up your robes to keep them dry. You must dive naked under and deeper under, 1,000 times deeper. Love flows down. Love flows down. Don't put blankets over the drum. Open completely. Let your spirit ear listen to the earth's passionate murmurs. Let the cords of your robe be untied. Shiver in the new love of all above and below. The sun rises, but which way does night go? I have no more words. Let the soul speak with a silent articulation of the face. Okay. So I emphasize that line in the poem, love flows down. I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit here. The fire element, which is at the top of the cycle, which is the peak of yang energy, it corresponds, each element corresponds with an organ. The organ that corresponds with the heart, the organ that corresponds with the fire element is the heart. Okay? In Chinese medicine, it's said that the heart is the monarch of the 6 yang and the 6 yin organs. So the heart sort of presides over the whole body. And I think we know this poetically and metaphorically also, that the heart is a perennial symbol of wisdom, of wholeness, of fullness, of emotion, of mind as well. The heart, the spirit of the fire element is called Shen, which is heart-mind. So between the heart and the mind, we have, in a sense, the fullness of life. I have this other little infogram down here. The earth equals body equals heart. Okay, so this is a theme of tonight. So this whole cycle of the 5 elements, which I described in the beginning, is rooted in the earth, is centered around the earth, is also our own body. Our bodies are this body of the earth. We're not separate. We're there physically. We eat what the earth gives us. We excrete, and it goes back to the earth. When we die, we go back to the earth. So earth equals body equals heart. Okay, so the heart represents this fullness of our own bodies, the fullness of our experience, and that which is ever expansive and contains all. So earth equals body equals heart. So we have this little heart up here in the fire element, and when we go through this wonderful transformation of the 5 phases, this little heart becomes a big heart like that. And it becomes this big heart by going through the complete cycle of yin and re-emerging and going through the complete cycle of yang. Okay? So this little heart of the fire phase, which we could sort of put a line here, the fire phase heart exists here. The big heart is this whole big circle. Okay, so I was jumping ahead a little bit. So characteristics of yang are, and some of these are specific a little bit, some of these are a little bit general. So yang represents that which is fast, okay, that which is quick. Knowledge. On the yin side, there's more a feeling of slowness. Yang is the masculine principle, yin is the feminine principle. And I think that the yin-yang philosophy is also wonderful to solve a lot of our gender issues between man and woman. When we understand that yin and yang exists both in men and in women. Okay, so when I speak about yang as the masculine principle, it means that this is also in women, and vice versa with yin. So, okay, so knowledge in the yang phase, which I sort of characterize with science and the accumulation of logistical knowledge, which is on the yang side, and wisdom, which is more accumulated in the yin phase, which takes more time. It takes time to accumulate wisdom. And wisdom is also accumulated through difficulty, through depth. Yin is the deep phase. The yang side is the superficial side. When I say superficial, I don't mean it in a pejorative sense necessarily. When it's only superficial, then it's a problem. But when it's integrated with yin, then it's in balance. Okay. This is a little bit generalized and tricky here. Yang represents the mind. Yin represents the body. Of course, the body in a way is our unconscious, so it's still part of our mind. So we could say that yang is the logistical mind. Yin is the unconscious, or the deeper mind. Yang relates, and this is another little bit of a general one, a quantity, and yin is quality. So again, because it's fast, because it's producing, yang produces a lot. The yin phase actually is the declining, breaking down phase. And it produces quality in the sense that it's a process of refining. And we'll go over that a little bit. Okay. We'll go through all of these. So yang is activity, yin is repose, yang is consciousness, conscious mind, yin is subconscious. Sun is yang, moon is yin. Yang is, this is for later, right? Yang is entertainment, the way we entertain ourselves, this sort of superficial aspect of life where we entertain ourselves and we distract ourselves, which is not necessarily a negative thing, again, is more of a yang. And this inner work where we go inside ourselves into a quiet crucible, into the cocoon of inner work and emotional work, is more of a yin aspect. So there are two main tenets of yin and yang. One is that they're, I alluded to this earlier, is that they're completely interdependent. Okay? So yang feeds yin, and yin feeds yang. Okay? Sunlight encourages growth in a plant, also encourages root growth. The roots of a plant take in nutrients which help feed the yang, the external structures of a plant. If we look at the human body, yang is the fire of digestion, breaks down gross substances to provide nourishment for yin. That nourishment of yin, which comes in Chinese medical terms through blood and essence, and yin is the fuel that supports yang. So, water represents ultimate yin. Fire represents ultimate or extreme yang. So that as the yin cycle grows, And it goes down into the depths of winter, which is the winter solstice here, the summer solstice here. Spring equinox, wood corresponds with spring, now corresponds with autumn. So summer solstice, winter solstice, autumn equinox, and spring equinox. So as yin reaches its culmination in the depths of winter, in the darkest night, the winter solstice, yang is beginning. And as winter continues, winter goes from here to here. And in that progression, we actually feel like we're in the depths of winter and winter's happening, but it's actually the light is secretly growing. So underneath the ground, the seeds are beginning to wake up a little bit, even through the winter phase. Okay, so I'm going to go back here and read a couple more quotes that I collected. There's a Jungian therapist, she's passed away, but her name was Helen Luke, and this is from a book called The Way of Woman, and I just think it's a really beautiful quote. I came across it just this week, and it speaks so much to what we're talking about here. She's talking about the feminine aspect, and she's talking... I tend to like these books about feminism and the Earth Mother concepts. And unfortunately, they're usually only speaking to women. And I think that these books speak equally to men and to women, but we have this concept that masculine and feminine, this kind of gender war are opposites. So I wish we could really all think a lot more in this way, where yin and yang, feminine and masculine are inside of us. So she says, talking about the feminine principle, about yin here. How are women to recover their reverence for and their joy in this great archetype? How are women to recover their reverence for and their joy in this great archetype of which the symbols have always been earth, the moon, the dark, and the ocean, mother of all? The extremes of the worship of the bright light of the sun, the extremes of the worship of the bright light of the sun have produced in our time an estrangement, even in women themselves, from the patient, nurturing, and enduring qualities of the earth, from the reflected beauty of the silver light of the moon in the darkness, from the unknown of the deep sea of the unconscious, and from the springs of the water of life. The way back and down to those springs, the way back and down to those springs into the roots of the tree is likewise the way on and up to the spirit of air and fire in the vaults of heaven. So she's saying that this passage through yin is actually the secret channel back to brightness and happiness. If we can recover in ourselves the hidden beauty of this receptive devotion, if we can learn how to be still without inaction, how to further life without willed purpose, how to serve without demanding prestige, and how to nourish without domination, then we shall be women again, out of whose earth the light might shine, This aspect of having the light shine from the earth is beautiful. It means that we don't worship a heaven up in the sky. When heaven is up in the sky, it gives us an excuse to not care for our planet. When we care for our planet, especially when we go through the yin cycle, which really clears us out, we discover a light inside of us, an indwelling light. And on a personal note, through many years of inner work and therapy in my 20s, I discovered this process. And it was really amazing. And it was the most healing time of my entire life, and which has really sown the seeds of my being here tonight talking about this. So again, because this difficult part, not addressing our pain, not going into our pain, is denigrated and ostracized and condemned in life, we end up stuck on this yang side. We end up superficial, stuck without knowing how to feel a sense of fullness and a sense of fullness that's also in motion, that recycles itself inside of us. So this progression, it's called in Chinese medicine, it's called the generation cycle. And this generation cycle means we start in wood. Wood is the beginning of everything. I mean, it's the Big Bang. Yeah, here in wood. So wood corresponds with the springtime, with budding, with newness. Corresponds with the emotion of anger. And this is more for medical purposes, but we can think of wood as the beginning, this beginning of exuberance. And corresponds with the color green and the organ, the liver organ. So on a very simplistic level, wood produces fuel, fire. So we're going to see how these elements generate one another. So wood generates fire, right? Common sense. Fire corresponds with summertime. It's when times are easy, life is budding, we feel great, we're outward, we're having fun. Emotion corresponding with the fire elements is joy. The color is red, the organ is the heart. So all that sort of makes common sense, it feels right to us. Okay, so another beautiful aspect of this is that the 5 elements really capture our own microcosm within this macrocosm of nature. As I'm going to talk later on in the way that we can actually go about healing the earth and becoming vessels of integration for the world, is that we actually discover a macrocosm in ourselves, which is this wonderful inner world of nature which we can reclaim. And it's in a way that we, through our presence, through our actions, through our deeds in the world, we can sort of rebirth this wholeness and bring this medicine of wholeness to the world. Not just, again, this is this inner path of being sustainable, not just doing things that are sustainable. So fire burns the wood and creates ashes. Ashes nourish the earth element, which we're talking about over here right now. So the earth element corresponds to late summer. Late summer is the end of summer, before autumn. The earth element also corresponds to all the transitional points in the circle. So as spring turns to summer, there's earth element there. I think it's like 7.5 days or something like that. It's not exact. And when fire changes to metal, the earth element is there. So we see that this earth element is this constant persistence throughout the whole cycle. And it's a metaphor, it's a poetic metaphor, and it's also true that we always have to have the earth in mind. We always, as we walk around in the world, we have our bodies, and our bodies are a locus of information, how we navigate in the world, and it's what, we're encased in this thing which is alive. And so the earth element is present through the whole cycle, just as it's present in our own body. So we're always connected to the earth. And in our modern culture, we're not always connected to the earth. And here in Pune, we have this wonderful beauty that we live with, and a lot of us are connected to the earth almost all the time. And this is something I wanted to say earlier, I'm just remembering it now, is that I feel that if we can really dig into ourselves and feel this, the healer, the shaman in ourselves that can really give something to the world, we have this amazing opportunity here. We don't have strife here in Pune like we do in so many other places in the world. If we could somehow find in our daily lives to give this beauty of nature and this this easy abundance that we have here of what it's like to live so vibrantly with nature to the rest of the world in some way, through our work, through whatever we do. I feel that this is a tremendous, almost obligation and responsibility, and a very deep joy to do. Okay, so ashes feed the earth as compost, build the earth. Earth nourishes the metal element. The metal is, so you can think of it as deep earth, the earth that's been condensed and refined into metals. And then this metal element feeds the water element. Well, let me go back. Metal corresponds with autumn, with fall, and the emotion of sadness and grief. And this also has a commonsensical feeling tone. In autumn, the leaves fall, dealing in other parts of the world where they have 4 seasons, leaves fall from the tree and things go into decline, and the sap from the tree starts to move down into the roots. There's a natural feeling and tone of sadness, and it's just part of life. Metal corresponds with the lung element. If we ever gone through deep sadness and grief, and we feel it in our chest, we feel it in our lungs. Okay, metal corresponds with the energy of decline, and it goes down here to metal feeds water. So we think of salt. Again, this is not scientifically correct in every sense. It's just a metaphorical representation that has some sense in real life, so that these metals nourish the water element. Okay, so the minerals of the earth nourish the water element. The water element corresponds with the season of winter, with the energetic of death, the emotion of fear, and the color of blue-black. This water again goes up once again to the wood element, where it nurtures the plants. So water nurtures wood again. So this is the generation cycle.
Dad?
Yes?
Pretty sure you want this recorded, yeah? It's just stopped.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you. I had problems with it before. Thanks, Maria. Okay. So, does anyone have any questions at this point? Okay. Does that mean I'm explaining this well? Good. All right. And thank you for bearing with me through this. There's just some foundational material, which is, I think it's very fascinating. And this is a beautiful model for life. And I think the whole world should be familiar with it, because it could fix a lot of things. So, all right. Give my chin a break. All right. Yes?
Can you say more about Earth being in the center versus being in between fire and metal?
Right. Were you here at the beginning?
I was, but I just...
Okay, no problem. So, there are 2 different models of the 5 elements. One shows Earth being in the middle, right? So, Earth in the middle really means that Earth is this whole circle. It pertains to the whole circle. And that's how I describe the Earth element as present in all the transitions between the phases. So this is traditional Chinese medical theory. This is straight up, all right? Does that make sense?
Oh, like you said at the transition points.
Yeah, it's at the transition points, also in the center in feng shui, which is also utilizes the 5 elements. I often have the kitchen in the center of the house, right? So the earth element corresponds with nourishment and digestion, okay, and food and the nourishment we get from the earth. So it's at the center. Yeah, and it's also at the center of all of our activities. It's the constant presence that nourishes and sustains the cycle of life. Yeah? And when it's out here, this is just a different system of the 5 elements. So we have this kind of shifting earth, between the center and out here. So it's helpful to explain Earth being here in certain theories that I'm describing, and then others at the center. Okay. So one thing I forgot to mention, is that okay? All right. So if we draw, I'm not going to do it, I'll mess up this whole thing, but if we draw a line straight down the center here, we have this left side and we have the right side, so we have the inside. So wood and spring and fire and summer correspond with the yang side of life. This is the bright side of life. Springtime and summer is when the light is out, life is easier. Nature and life is showing itself externally. Right? The yin side of life, the dark side of life, contains earth to a degree. There's all these disputes about whether earth is yin or yang, but I think it's sort of yin. So yin, earth, yin metal, and yin water. Okay, so autumn, decline, water, all go downward and inward. Does that all make sense? Okay. You're wondering where I'm going with all this, right? Like, what are we doing here? So I hope it all comes to fruition here. I think it will. So if we look at, okay, so the theme tonight is activism. It's caring for our planet, how to mobilize a deep sense of love from ourselves and care and empathy and compassion for the world. And as I described earlier, this fire element that corresponds with the heart. Okay, we all live for the yang side in a sense. I mean, life would be meaningless, and there's some great philosophers actually that ended up killing themselves because they thought that life was only yin. But thankfully, it's not ultimately true, and that there is a wonderful yang side of life. And what I'm saying here tonight is that this yang side of life, that we can really make the best of it when we fully embrace the yin side. And to navigate the yin side of life, we absolutely need the yang side of life. Hopefully I'll come back to that. Okay, so back to the theme of tonight, this caring for our world. So if we look at what's really, as I mentioned earlier, kind of ruining the party for a lot of us, is this aspect of big business, right? So we have, let me come over here. My fire's out. Okay. All right. So we have big ag, big pharma, and big power. Big power wanting to come to Pune with geothermal. Okay, so big agriculture, I'm a big GMO activist. Okay, the way GMOs are farmed, they're basically creations of science. They rely on fast growth, fast output, intense yang fertilizers, which I mentioned earlier, burn out the soil. So big ag, big pharma, big power, all are perverted and deranged yang forces in the world. Okay? As I mentioned earlier, the corollary to big ag is something like permaculture or organic gardening, right? Where we respect the cycle. Okay? When you garden organically, you have mulch, and you build the soil, and the soil is built by death and decomposition. And it's beautiful in our gardens. It's essential. Okay? But big ag doesn't do that. They just get chemical fertilizers, right, which are superficial, which, again, when yang is imbalanced, it creates this infertile death, which I was talking about. So fertilizers, the pesticides that they spray on the GMO crops, and even in conventional agriculture where they use herbicides and pesticides, they kill the microbacteria of the soil. There's these microorganisms that break down, that create this nourishment of yin. Where does it all happen? It happens in the soil. It happens in the dark. Right? And the corollary to these microorganisms in our cells are the emotions of sadness, grief, remorse, even shame and guilt. And these emotions are really condemned. And sometimes when I speak in front of people, everybody kind of gets silent and, the vibe changes. But we have these wounds in ourselves from childhood, from religions that have been foisted upon us, from control systems, and all these sorts of things that have influenced us and created sort of dysfunctional, hurt, wounded, paralyzed aspects inside of ourselves. And the beautiful yin microorganism emotional correlate in us is these emotions I just mentioned, sadness and grief and remorse. Think about it. And just think about it for a moment. If we paused to look at what we're doing to the planet, if we pause to evaluate what the consequences of our actions are, if Big Ag, Big Pharma, Big Power paused, pause is the flavor of the earth element. It's pause. It's the transition between the elements. It's pausing from one feeling state, from one season, from one event to the next. You know people that live their lives where they don't pause between anything. They go from one thing to the next, from eating to talking to sleep to waking up, and there's no pause. There's no breathing, right? And so if we can come to really embrace, again, this feminine aspect in all of ourselves, if we actually apprehended and could foster this in the world, this quality of self-reflection, which is earth. I didn't write everything down here, so when I say this, just take my word for it, even though it's not up here. So the self-reflection of the earth. So if we see that after this amazing productivity of the yang phase, right? Fire phase, that's where life fruits, gives its fruits. This is what we all live for, is fruiting, giving the beauty of ourselves, exercising our talents, and sharing our gifts with the world. But these gifts, I posit here, are most rich, most juicy, most comprehensive, most sustainable from a full turn of this cycle. Okay, so embracing both yin and yang, not pumping out as much food as we can through artificial, chemical, yang-deranged means. So if we come from this great productivity, okay, so this is activity, yang side is activity, doing things, getting things done, producing things. So if we appreciate the earth element right as we begin to go into this yin cycle, okay, so what I'm going to move into right now quickly, because it's coming up, is this, is the progression, this sort of emotional, spiritual progression of consciousness inside ourselves. And as we go about what we do on the planet. So we come from, okay, so action is over here, introspection is over here in the yin phase. And if we begin to pay attention, okay, this paying attention, reflecting on things is earth. We begin to pay attention to things. We say, wow, what's going on? Opening the eyes in a very grounded sense. And remember, earth equals body, okay? So when forces injure the body of the earth, okay, this all started getting synthesized in me when we had the BP oil spill and then Fukushima. These things really catalyzed me. I was just like, I don't like to use the word channel, but I was synthesizing this information and just looking at it in terms of the 5 elements. So it really affected me, and it still does affect me. And geothermal coming to Pune really affects me. You know, it moves me, and it hurts. So if we self-reflect in Earth, and we say, hey, this body of mine hurts. This body of mine that's connected to the rest of the world. So we use our minds to learn about what's going on in the world, and at a deeper level, perhaps we even feel what's going on in the world, you know, on a deep kind of collective soul level. On a microcosmic level, on all of us, when we don't feel well, we didn't sleep well, we get a sore throat, it's like, oh, something is wrong. It brings our awareness, right? We start to reflect and we say, what's going on here? We begin to look more closely. So that's the earth element. And because the earth element is present in the entire circle, it means we're always paying attention. We're always aware. Okay? Everybody has been through hard times. Everybody in this room. It's one thing to go through hard times and to be, you know, partying or doing ecstasy or distracting yourself in whatever kind of way, not really giving yourself sacred time for your emotional process. But if you can take this presence, this self-reflected presence of Earth, and be in your pain, in your difficulty, in your challenges with presence, that's Earth. So that Earth is constantly building its own body of integration inside of us. And when we do that individually, it happens collectively. And so that society begins to change. It begins to question what it's doing. It begins to look at what it's doing in the world. A lot of the leaders in traditional cultures were selected because of their wisdom. And they were usually old. And today we have old idiots running the world. Stupid people. You know, people with no wisdom, or very little wisdom, or they don't act it. And it's an atrocity. So it's up to us, in a way, to become the wise people, the wise women and the wise men, the shamans of our time, to activate these processes in ourselves. And I just want to say again in a different way that it's a common meme in our world that love and light will heal the world, and this is what's needed to overcome this darkness. And I believe that that's true. I experience it to be true, but I think what people often talk about is just this part of the heart, this part of love. And that kind of easy love doesn't appreciate the pain of the world, the suffering of the world. And when we go through our own pain, and we see how when we stay present, self-reflective of our own pain, it actually changes. And when we stay present with Earth, it activates the cycle. So Earth, on an emotional, spiritual level, is what activates this cycle. And another idea I'll come to is this breaking open of the heart, which will come. So, you know, in traditional Native American cultures, you know, 7 generations, right? We act now for 7 generations in the future. That's wisdom. That's appreciating this entire circle. That's appreciating the recyclability, the sustainability of our actions. And that's what yin gives us. Yin gives us wisdom. Yin puts us in touch with our own pain so that when we stay present and awake and don't numb ourselves and distract ourselves from our own pain, we know what pain is. And we know what difficulty is. And then when we see it in the world, we don't like it. Right? We say, that's not just. And we fight for justice. We fight for justice with a deep heart. Right? And this deep heart is the heart that's below this red line. It's this big heart which comes from a full circle of the seasons, a wholeness of life, so that we embrace our anger, we embrace our fear. It's natural and healthy to feel afraid. I'm afraid of the situation of our world today. So as we become self-reflective in earth, we feel the body of the earth, we learn, right? We think, we see, we gather information, or we're there personally, we see the earth being hurt, or we see our own bodies being hurt. It produces sadness. It's sad to see if we're earth-centered people, if we're nature-centered people, if we appreciate the simple beauty of life. It hurts and it's sad. And this is normal. And this, I put out to you, is the secret, hidden cure to a lot of our personal and world problems. Not the bright side of life alone, but embracing this difficult part of life. And we make a sacrifice in a way, but it's temporary, because when we stay present with our pain, it becomes fertile darkness. We fertilize it. Okay? Another idea tonight. Yin, I said before, needs yang. Why does it need yang? Yang is the mind, its awareness, right? And it becomes grounded, self-reflective awareness when it gets to earth. So we have to go into this dark phase with our hearts, with love, with exuberance that is spring and summer. We have to take this joy and live it, but know that the dark side is also present. And so when we can take this awareness, this yang, immaterial essence of our consciousness, and dip it down inside to the dark hair. It's like divine fertilization. It's divine insemination, right? Taking this masculine quality in each of us and using it to nurture and illuminate this yin. Carl Jung said that, what was that line? There's something about enlightenment or something is just making the dark conscious, making the dark light. It's not that we want to take our light and go into the yin and get rid of yin. No, it's that we go in here to heal it. This is where our wounds are. This is where our sadness is. This is where the difficult parts of life are. So that we can emerge in yang with this sort of, it's hard to describe, this body of wisdom, this body of experience that allows us to do potent healing things in the world. So what happens in a great part of our world is that we can live through wood and fire very easily. And when we get to earth, that's where we start to get a little bit afraid. That's where we actually start to feel things in a real way. And we can feel wonderful things, but as long as we're in the yin cycle here, it's when we begin to feel difficult things. And it's right at this earth moment, right? This little transition or this little late summer aspect where we make that choice. We make that choice to run back to yang. Another yang quality that I didn't put on here is addiction. This is the addiction cycle of yang. So all the things that we do to numb ourselves, to take ourselves away from difficulty. So right at Earth, we can run back to this yang phase. And what we do when we do that is we stay superficial. And we don't appreciate this yin phase. And we don't appreciate the pain of the world. We don't appreciate the problems in the world. And we don't become healers. And we don't live out our fullness. If we can take this awareness, right, as we, as life comes from this great exuberance and it begins to settle down again, right, in this cycle of awareness and consciousness in us, and we can take it into the mental phase and we can stay present through our sadness. We feel sad for what happens to the body of the world. We feel sad for what happens to ourselves, to our family, to our friends, and we appreciate it. In medicine, you have to see a disease to acknowledge it. In order to treat something, you have to acknowledge that it exists in the first place. So, as a healer, you look and you see what's going on with somebody's body, right? And you diagnose it, you figure out a cure for it. And that's what we do here. Okay? So, we feel the sadness for the world. And autumn is also corresponds with letting go, right? So grief, sadness, grief, right? That we're losing something. We're losing something valuable to us, whether it's a family member or a lover or, a friend or a pet or, a piece of land or a plant. We feel the sadness and there's a letting go. And as that destruction happens, we accept this aspect of death, right? That something has died. And if we can, we try to save it. So again, this is a progression over time, but in the moment, if we're sick, we try to do something about it. So, several of these elements operate at the same time, but I'm just doing this for a linear comprehension of it. So as we get into water, we go through this. It's where life at a very deep cellular level is annihilated. It's where bugs in the soil turn gross matter into molecular nourishment. It's where we go through our own emotional death, where we completely break open and process our losses and process our griefs. And what this does is that it clears our body of pain. When we have pain in our bodies that goes unprocessed, and again, this isn't 100% to nothing. This is, for the most part, we don't deal with we all live with pain. But when we can process and deal with the pains in our body, then we free up space in ourselves. And this mental element, this sadness that takes us, this letting go that takes us into a final letting go in the depth of winter, is this clearing out, and it creates a clarity in us. Okay? So if yang is anabolism, which is building up, yin is catabolism. So this is the clearing for the integration and the clarity and the purity of this yang phase of growth. So, if we appreciate something, okay? So this is the core message tonight, is to open our hearts, to appreciate life, appreciate beauty, to appreciate the things that sustain us. That's wood and fire. Okay? We're happy about life. We love what we love. This is a model of attachment. It's not a model of detachment. It's a model of embodied spirituality, of embodied love. So we love everything around us. We love what nurtures us. As that body of substance, whatever it is injured, it shakes us a little bit. Earth corresponds with ground. It sort of breaks ground. And It's here in earth that our hearts begin to break. And in the Sufi tradition, and Rumi wrote many poems about this, and I can't remember the poem I read, but I have another Sufi quote here from Piro Mushid Inyak Khan. Out of the shell of the broken heart, out of the shell of the broken heart, arises the newborn soul. Rumi and all the great Sufi saints and masters teach that a broken heart is an open heart. So we run back to yang when we don't want our hearts to break, when we're afraid. Okay? So a lot of the love and light that prances around our world is actually fear in disguise. It's a fear of dipping into the realities of life. This yang side also has to do with self-centeredness, not necessarily in a negative sense. It's self-centered because it's external. Right? It's not, oh boy. Skip that for now, it's too much. So this broken open heart, you've heard, what's her name, Natalie Goldberg, is it, who wrote a book, wrote a poem called, Heart as Wide as the World. So when we go into our pain and we accept and we stay present through this yin phase, our hearts break open. When we love something and it is injured and we go through the depths of that injury, it breaks our hearts open. If you've ever been through great grief, you know what it's like. You feel like you become the world. I've experienced it. I'm sure everybody's experienced a piece of it. And when that heart breaks open as wide the world, that's when you become a world citizen. That's initiation into being a person of service. Okay? As this cycle continues, we have fire, which is joy, right? Again, this is the superficial joy of our lives, which is wonderful. But it's not the mature, wise, initiated healer that comes back up to the fire element in service. And this is service, and it comes from having a heart that's broken open. And I'm sorry to say, but nothing engenders and consolidates compassion, empathy, and the desire to help and heal as pain. We're just too lazy. When life is good all the time, which includes turning back at the earth phase and ignoring it, we're selfish. This is a taking phase. Yang is also associated. It's a taking phase, and it's a consumerism phase. Yin engenders giving back. It's nourishment. It's what breaks things down and gives back. So I pause, and I don't know where I am. Okay, so as something dies, or as we lose something, and we go through the depth of that pain, we come to the wood phase, where we spring into action. This is action. And the dysfunction in our world today is big ag, big farmer, I didn't get to describing all those. I don't think I have time, and I got to check the time a little bit. But this action, when it's integrated with the full circle here, becomes wise action. It becomes sustainable action. Because it doesn't want to create pain in the body of the earth again. It doesn't want to create pain to others because it knows pain. When it ignores pain, we can act foolishly. We act without wisdom. We destroy the earth. We destroy our ecosystems. We invent GMOs and tell lies and saying that we're doing this to feed the world. What an abomination. Poisoning the world out of greed, out of fake power. This is real power integrated with yang. Pure yang without yin is fake power, it's machismo, and it's stupidity. These people can sleep at night because they ignore this whole phase. So it's up to us to not ignore this phase so that we can act with wisdom, so that we can act with compassion and do whatever we can for the world. Because these people didn't let their hearts break open. So this awareness of yang, right, this joy, right, which begins immature, inseminates yin so that it fertilizes yin, so yin can actually grow and create nourishment. So it's not just latent darkness. It's darkness which comes alive and becomes the great mother, the great nourishment, right? The giver of life. So as yin is inseminated by our own awareness, it leads into this integrated action and integrated progress that is always part of the circle. It's always at the behest of the circle. So it can't leave the circle. Right? So what we have today is disease. And it's the disease of these three main powers. There are others. The political system, right? Which is hand in hand with all these three bigs. So we allow our hearts to break. We feel the pain of it. We feel the sadness. We feel the remorse. And we even feel the shame of what we do and what's happening to the world. And these emotions cause us to not want it to be. Causes us to want to heal it. Causes us to want to do something about it. And it's been asked of me, when I talked about this before, well, why do we have to go through this whole yin cycle? We know what we have to do. You know? Science tells us what we have to do. The ice caps are melting. There's ozone is being depleted. We have to reduce our carbon footprint. We have to reduce the consumption of natural resources. And that's all fine. But if you compare that to the Western medical model, which primarily fixes things when they're broken, right? That's what that is. It's a yang enterprise of fixing things when they're broken. But when they're broken, sometimes it's too late. But the yin is a bit more sensitive. It's a bit more intuitive. It sees things like Chinese medicine does. It sees things before they become overt, gross disease, and it can correct it. And it not only has a system fixing the problems in the world, but also for wellness, for how to keep a sustainable, healthy system in place. Western medicine doesn't have much of that. At least not the way it's practiced. So we let our hearts break, we go through this cycle, and we're at a time in history, maybe it's always been the case, but I see it now, when our own personal healing sort of interfaces with planetary healing. Okay? So a lot of people don't go past this earth phase down into this deep healing phase because their own wounds come up. And when we see the pain of the world, when we see pain in others, it brings up our own pain. And we can't go here because we're too afraid. And so we turn back. And so the challenge of becoming an activist, becoming a lover of the world, is to embrace our own pain, to embrace our own difficulties and say, here it is, and to work with it, and to accept the phases in life that are slower, that are more inward, that aren't all about output. And if you look at this yin side, worry and self-reflection, are often criticized. Don't stare at your belly button so much. What are you worried about? Don't worry. Sadness. What are you sad about? Cheer up, chin up, don't be sad. Let's go out, whatever. Fear. Fear is the opposite of love, right? Isn't that one of our New Age dictums? Fear is not the opposite of love. Fear is integral to love. This is the bottom of the heart. This is where we go when we feel the deep injustice in the world. And that creates this deep love in us that is passed through self-reflection, this kind of breaking open of the heart into sadness and into this depth of, the fear of death and death itself. So does anybody have the time? At 9 o'clock? Oh, okay. Well, it's a good place to stop. A lot more to say, but anybody have anything to say?
I love you, Jack.
Thanks, Bob.
Mahalo.
All right. You're welcome. I had hoped to read some poems, but I want to open it. You want to take like a 5-minute break or something and stretch. And I wrote this poem once, and I said, "Hold only what dissolves for the heart to live. Hold only what dissolves for the heart to live." So there's a lot of information here, but I like information that kind of dissolves and is not a burden necessarily, but activates us, right? So that we get something, we become inspired. And so my hope is that a lot of this information has been something that dissolves so that your heart can grow. Anybody have anything to say, or?
Well, I'm still assimilating a lot of this. And, what really struck me is
Do you
this,
want this?
no, this point right here and going back, because we see that happening so much in our society that we just want to run away. We want to numb ourselves. We want to look the other way. We don't want to go to that place where we can really get deep with what's going on. And I admit I was there a while back, not wanting to see a lot of this, but it's that going in there and going deep, and it's just like going to sleep at night and letting whatever happened in the day, your body process it so that the next morning you can get up really strong and vibrant and take it on again. But if you shortcut that sleep and don't do that and keep yourself awake at night and do a lot of other things, you're going to start depleting your body. So that one thing that you said just really struck me, because I see it all over the place where people just go so far and then, nope, and they're out of there.
It's the wall of fear.
Yeah.
It's the fear of fear. It's that they know intuitively what's at the end of that rabbit hole.
Right.
It's difficult.
Just concentrate on the positive only and just see joy and love. But then there's almost like avoiding going through the pain. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just mention that there's a whole other kind of system that I teach where we go through this whole cycle. It's more of a personal cycle, and it goes through from wood all the way back to wood on a physical level. So we learn how to take care of ourselves on a physical level, which is incredibly important. And if we don't have our physical health, it's really hard to progress in our evolution. We can still do it, but why not be as vibrant as we can? So progress in the physical, which then spirals into the emotional, right? So as we integrate in our bodies, we can then do the emotional work. And when you do this emotional work and kind of clear yourself after this water phase, this beautiful thing happens where all this yin, all this dark, creative, fertile energy in us becomes an ally. It's not full of pain anymore. And it becomes the source of our creativity. Right? It's where we can work with our dreams and work with, we're comfortable in our bodies and we just encounter life full-bodied. And we can really give something beautiful. So, maybe that's why, I just thought of this, maybe that's why a lot of artists are, go through a lot of depression, a lot of sadness, are in touch with those parts of themselves, because it's the matrix of creativity. This is the creation cycle, right? And so when you clear that emotional, I call spirituality creativity, because it's really that we have our full spectrum of resources to operate from. So that when we get to that place, it's like there's like a direct hotline between water and fire, between our depths and our hearts, between our productivity and activity and our depths, so that that's integration. This pole right here is integration. Right? Well, we're not, if we turn back here, we don't have this. We haven't integrated this into our being, and we can't operate from this. If anything, it becomes this infertile darkness, which turns into violence, which turns into addiction, which turns into abuse, which we see in these. I didn't get a chance to go into, big pharma and big power, but, big pharma, a lot of the drugs that are given, they all have side effects. And if you just look at a common example like antibiotics, right, which is like the pesticides sprayed on GMO crops. Right? They kill our microflora throughout our body. And just like Big Ag kills the microorganisms in the soil. So, anyway, anyone else? Yep.
Yeah, I was struck when you said this is a model of attachment and not of detachment. Because I was just thinking about, in Buddhism and how there's like the principle of not, like that everything is impermanent and just getting in touch with that, being the one who witnesses this and not getting involved in it. And yet there's also, of course, what people call now engaged Buddhism, sort of like using those values to also make change in the world, and yet, but sometimes there's a contrast, there's some, I don't know, at least I get confused sometimes, where it's like, in one philosophy, it's like, oh, if you want to really be at peace, then you have to let go and don't get involved in the negative emotions, don't feed it, don't, pay so much attention to that. And this other, well, actually you have to go through it to find, I don't know, and I feel sometimes just confused. Like,
right. No, I understand. And there are different schools, and there are a lot of Eastern schools. And what I've described here is a sort of embodied interpretation. When I describe the basic five-element theory in yin-yang, that's traditional. But a lot of the other stuff that I described is my own creation. But staying true to this cycle, and staying true to what I've experienced and I've watched in life. And when I describe it, if anything is untrue, we'll just discard it. I'm just sharing this as it's an invitation, it's a choice for people to consider. Right? Sometimes I think that, well, if everything is impermanent, right, well, why don't we just all kill ourselves? Right? I mean, there's something beautiful about living. There's something beautiful about being here. I don't want to live in a toxic waste dump. I happen to love beauty as well. So that's not beautiful. And it's not beautiful to watch people suffer. But it's a choice. And John Wellwood, he's a great psychotherapist and also a Buddhist, I believe. And he talks about spiritual bypassing, right? Spiritual bypassing is turning back here, right? So it's using these spiritual principles to deny our embodied existence, to deny the difficult parts of life in our emotions.
Can you repeat his name?
John Wellwood. Yeah. I just want to mention real quick, I just remembered something. I read this article this week. This is just quick. Cutting into my poem time, it's fine. There's this article about happiness. And for the last number of years, there's been so much glitz, right? So much young glitz, right? Enthusiasm about happiness and how important happiness is. There's so many things I didn't get to tonight. It bothers me in a way, but it is what it is. So this happiness is joy, right? It's the heart up here. And I have this poem called Something More Than Happiness. And, oh God, I'm just remembering there's so much I didn't get to. But this happiness, right? So when we just live life up here, it's happiness. But when we go through this whole cycle and we integrate the depths of yin with happiness, what we get is fulfillment. Fulfillment is different than happiness. Fulfillment to me is whole-bodied, it's integrated, it's comprehensive. And I read this article. They did this scientific study comparing people who reported that they were happy with people that reported that they had meaning in their life. And a lot of people felt, most of the 75% of people felt happy, but they didn't feel that they had meaning in their life. And what they found was when they did, there's scientific tests on these people, that the genetic expression, the genes that were being expressed in the proteins which led to the neurotransmitters and all this, in happy people was the same gene expression as people who are going through constant adversity. So happiness has been touted as this, oh, it's great for your body, it's great for your mind, it's great for your sex life and your relationships. And they did this study, it was a big study, and they found that, happiness, people who report happiness like this, are actually, what's going on physiologically is at the same level of chronic stress and adversity. Whereas people who express great meaning in their life had a different genetic expression that wasn't as stressful in the body. And of course I read this and I said, oh my God, that's it. That's the 5 elements. It's the difference between living up here and when you come out of the water phase, renewed, rebirth, when you go through the cycle of the dark night of the soul, from life, death, into rebirth, you have meaning and you have purpose. A lot. It's a passion. So, and I'll choose. Anyone have anything else to say? You want to walk around a few minutes? Yeah? All right. And then just let me read a couple poems because it'll be enjoyable to me. And I hope for you. Bring a lot of this stuff alive too. So let's take like 5 minutes, and then we'll come back for another 15 minutes or so. You're welcome.
This makes so much sense.
Does it?
Yeah.
Good. Oh, I'm glad it does.
It's like, in so many levels, it's kind of like a lot of information, but if you stick with it, it makes so much sense. And I want to share something with you. Did you know that my brother died? 2 years ago, my brother committed suicide.
Wow.
And I went through, of course, this deep grief. And I got kidney stones.
Wow.
And then right now in this cycle of liver and purifying the liver and getting rid of a lot of anger. And it's like so beautiful. It's like to see, it's like almost like give hope that it's just the cycle and just going through, trusting that.
Right.
It's,
And to me, the thing is that, to go through the cycle, if we can stay awake through the cycle, right? We stay awake, then the next time we know that we can make it through a little bit better. And it's still horrible. And we still go through that terrible sadness and letting go. But we know there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we know we come out better for it.
and it's like when I hear, I mean, I've been there where I just get to the point where I feel the pain of the earth, and then I hear all this new age people saying, you just don't have to concentrate on that. Just forget about it. Just concentrate on the beauty. And I just go there.
You go where?
Go here, where I'm
Go
like in
back to the beauty.
denial and like the addiction of just like in the new age thought of not going into the pain. And it's like it's necessary.
It's necessary. It depends, what you want to be in life. It's a choice. It's a choice. And for me, I'm just not satisfied, and I don't feel at peace in my own heart turning back. I never have. In my life, I don't think. Sometimes it's a calling. Sometimes it's what we're just predisposed to. Other, like I did this. I don't think I ever made a choice about this. I just did it. But I see that some people do make a choice about it. And sometimes when I explain this, it shows people. Because a lot of the reason we don't go into this is because of our ideas. Hey, Danny.
Hey, hi, Jeff.
Hey.
A lot of the reason we don't go into this part is because of our ideas.
Yeah, the things we've been indoctrinated with.
Yeah.
And our fear. It's hard.
Yeah. Those
And
ideas seem to bring fear. Those ideas bring the fear.
Right. And this thing is like I'm just speechless, when people talk about, this choice between love or fear. I was like, oh my God. It's like, why is there a choice? Can't you see in that there's a fear of the fear? What if we accept all of this,
Right.
Accept all of it. What happens to us,
Which is the bigger love, yeah?
Yeah, it's all the seasons of life. It's the fullness of nature, the fullness of our own human nature. We become real and beautiful people. We can sit down with pain, we can be healers. We can be with people. We can see what's going on in the world and feel it and do something about it. I like your comment, on the water page when you said, it makes me cry. It's like, yeah, right on. There's nothing wrong with it. And there's a lot right about it. Was it clear enough for you guys? That was my biggest fear was like trying to describe this and then apply it like within an hour and 15 minutes. I was like, oh my God, can I do that?
I kept thinking this is I don't know, maybe you have written a book, but it seems like a book.
Oh, it is. Here.
Okay.
I didn't get to all this.
Yeah.
I just brought this as like a safety blanket. It's like if I blank out on everything, at least I can sit and read something.
Right.
There was so much I didn't get to.
Thank you for having the courage to come out with your yang and stand in front of us and share your full experience.
That's the passion in the world.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
So, squeezing a form with you. So what camera turn on? What's your name?
Michelle.
I'm Jack.
Jack.
Thank you for your input. I appreciate it. It's a long discussion. I've had it many times. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yep. What do you mean come up? No, I used to. I have more time. All right. So we officially have Matt. Matt, do I have permission to go a few minutes over? That is? Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna. I brought like 40 minutes worth of poems, but we'll just feel it out. If you get tired, you can leave. Whatever. Thank you for coming, everybody, being present. Can you hear me without the microphone, or do you want me to do it with the microphone? Huh? Yeah. I'll be opposite and get the microphone. I'm afraid my voice will peter out a little bit. All right, so these poems are from a new book of poems I'm putting together called Rebirth. The first poem is called, it's good, kind of connects the last part of the talk to the poetry. Core Artist. Core Artist. If you want to be close to nature, if only your innermost self, give yourself to the elements, to the fire of exuberance, the metal of sadness, water spheres, the seething forests, to become into what they will make of you. Trust in that full, difficult deliverance of emotions that link your heaven and earth as passion and personality, a finely buoyant grounding. Passage to the cycle of your soul, carnal spirit, flower at last of whole living earth. Source that turns all the seasons, twirling pinwheel of a radiant heart. A place from where to transmit the purpose of your life, created by becoming the breath that turns the eternal wheel, birth, life, death, and rebirth. But you must break down the barriers by allowing yourself to be broken open. The mud walls of your inherited neuronal flows through the driving surge of compassionate courage, all halts replaced by passion. Oh, to arrive, fall back through the upsets, the denials, especially your griefs, all the essential shortcomings of what you've erected to pad yourself from that scorching core of wild love in reality. Become the core artist, fully embodying here to know anything other. As I read that, I thought of all these things I didn't say. That's my if you haven't noticed yet, that's my personal neurosis that I just hate leaving out beautiful things. I'll just say one real quick. This came to me a couple weeks ago. These 5 elements, ever since I was in Chinese medicine school, I've just always been, they're like my constant mentor. And I was telling Jill actually that I was meditating on the symbol. It's like this line here that differentiates yin and yang is sort of like this crack. It's like that's the heart crack, the heart breaking open. And it goes right down to water. And I just thought that was amazing. It's just such a beautiful symbol. And when that heart cracks open like that, it's like we have that line between heart and kidney, fire and water. And I'll read a poem called Fire and Water next. It kind of alludes to this. But isn't that neat? In Chinese medicine, there's this channel called the Qigong channel. It runs up the center of the body. And I think the Qigong channel, do that next time. called, original title of this poem is Fire and Water. I've edited it, I think 23 times. I'm not a perfectionist. And the new title is called The Back Door to Divinity. I really like that title, The Back Door to Divinity, right? So it has to do with this whole clearing phase, right? When we clear out our bodies, we clear out this pain, it's like the light shines from us. Right? Like the passage I read earlier from Helen Luke. She says, "Then we shall be women again, out of whose earth the light may shine." Right? So this spiritual love and light that we all, well, not we all, but many people, many religions have, sought outside of our own bodies. I say it's in our bodies, but we just have to go through all this shit to get there. Right? And then we have this beautiful thing, this rebirth that comes out. The back door to divinity. It's said that beneath the winding miles of solid rock, it's said that beneath the winding miles of solid rock, protecting the center of the earth, flows a river deep enough to irrigate this dusty life for 1,000 years, even though time will have already drowned once that ground breaks. Only an impossible aqueduct could join our spindly fields and parched hearts with that sea of liberation. You get the elements in there? Right? Parched heart, right? Up there with a sea of liberation going through this. Only an impossible aqueduct could join our spindly fields and parched hearts with that sea of liberation, a seemingly diabolical miracle of near fatal shaking to open what has all these years been longing for dissolution. We all need that sacred gash. We all need that sacred gash, a cut beneath the rest. Don't hold back your pain and don't hold back your pain and devastation, your courage for enduring darkness that holds no promise but only a glimmer of hope. These your only shovel and dynamite to enter what ignorance cannot offer. Let go your tears, for only in numbers can they begin to coalesce. Let go your tears, for only in numbers can they begin to coalesce, descend, then at last buoy you. What once stung in the open wound becomes crystal clear in the rising tide, shuttled through your veins, emerging from your lips as medicine for our times. Beat the apathy of evaporation. Beat the apathy of evaporation that leaves you with only a taste of fullness. Don't listen to the propaganda of droplets. They are not your sadness, but the disguised percolations of a great joy welcoming you home. Alas, follow the signature of salt. Alas, follow the signature of salt, whose last name cannot be recalled, dissolved through every living thing. Turn away from the teachers who insist on stretching your mind from your tender flesh into the lost world of shiny metals, who worship helium by default for a fear of lead. Consider water a salvation, and within its trinity of atoms, a fire of pure fission, the ardor of your now beating heart. Let it break open. The sacred marriage of opposites. The sacred marriage of opposites we could never bang together awaits your sacraments, your vows of unbridled passion and courage to allow the cleaving of your defenses for heaven to emerge from behind the veils of pain. I know that beneath the winding miles of solid bone, protecting the center of our bodies, flows a river rich enough to resuscitate our arteries and transform our eyes once we have slipped through our heart crack to infinity, the back door to divinity. I always read that one and it's like, I feel like I can't read anymore. Just pick a couple short ones. Earth on your sleeve. He says, when I was driving here tonight, I was harking back to one of the first poems that I wrote in Chinese medicine school almost 20 years ago. It began, a healer medicine bearer should be dirty, so very soiled and dirty. And I just love that line. Of all the cleanliness and sterility of modern medicine. So, screw it. All right. Earth on your sleeve. If you are an activist, a lover of this sparkling world, show me the dirt under your fingernails, where you have dug beneath the filth of big business into the clear ground of sharing, where you have dug mulch, manure, and your own blood into the drip line around the orchard trees, where you have unearthed the heartaches of your past and passed them slowly along the lifeline of your open palms so your body could come alive as mountain streams and teeming soils, where you have sullied your easy life to squeeze some sustainable gold from your secret pockets for the last Indians being flooded from their lands. Don't show me the clean white pages of your resume, your steam press work shirts lacking these sacred stains, or your neatly kept home and bleach countertops for all the ways you have washed your hands of birthing back the giving ground of all you've gained, unless you also wear Gaia's passions on your sleeve. Famous. I'm not famous like the sun or life after death. I'm not famous like the sun or life after death. If I were, would you pay more attention? Listen more closely? Heartache leads me to this earthly abode, turned into the fallen leaves and soil, well protected from the bright lights that make anything or nothing something. Thankfully, the world thinks it's bought and resold all the secrets. Thankfully, the world thinks it's rebought and resold all the secrets, so its real treasures remain protected by fierce angels, demanding we give up all that permits our continued walking along ways hidden from poor reflection. If this were the pointing finger, would you have an easier time dying to all you think is good and golden, so the moon might finally carry you through the fathoms you've ignored for the idea of a shore? Okay, this will be close to my last one, maybe. Any questions? We will have to remember a recreation prayer. We'll have to remember one day when we no longer have to fight, when there's no Dow Chemical, Monsanto, no Wall Street or ExxonMobil, when the hearth has excused them all from the circle and our governments have regrown from the soft strata of our bodies like oak trees from the midst of the Sierra Madre. When the earth has shaken our lousy adornments twisted from its very flesh, as naked again, and can at last breathe open our stifled chests, so together we might release a decades-long sigh from the soil of generations before us. We will have to remember to drop the weapons from our roiling minds. We will have to remember to lift by hand the plating from our backs, the armor from our toiling breasts. When we no longer have to sell lies, for a future of felled trees and fallen dreams, when we no longer have to believe in a bigger, richer, fatter, or any God, when we once again feel the living ground from our very breath, we will know the temple of the moon has opened in our bellies, and we can begin to grieve everything stuck to our bones, so the sun can rise again from the cold seas. We will have to find fulfillment in ordinary. We will have to sell ourselves on giving. We'll have to grow used to green miles, to beauty here, no devil, and therefore to heaven here. And every night now, in the quiet ease of our beds, we will have to remember that we fought not to have to fight anymore. This little excerpt of a poem from Mary Oliver. I want to share. Oh, pure luck that I found it. All right. This is from a poem. I think it's Blackwater Pond. It's just a little excerpt. I was going to read it at the beginning, but I forgot. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things to love what is mortal. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things to love. Start over. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal. To hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal. To hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. Michelle, that sort of speaks to our discussion. This is an integration of detachment and attachment. I'm going to end on this poem. One thing that I like to do is kind of a rascal in me. So I like taking these New Age terms and putting them into titles of poems, or even like the title of this talk tonight, and then like delivering something that people don't really expect. So this is called a Peace for Our Times. Right? So I'll just live in love and peace. So here it is, Peace for Our Times. There is no time for quiet love. There is no time for quiet love, a complacent peace that harbors tranquility without weeping for the sea, surging and seething with injustice and cruelty. The desertification of our minds, the deforestation of our hearts, and fishing out of our souls, robbing us of freedoms in the name of protection, poisoning our food with mutations and mercenary calories in the name of halting starvation. Or each individual like yours, or each individual life like yours or mine, piling stones at the shore, content with shallows and the barring of fathoms, practicing isolation in the name of satisfaction. There's little space now for convenient compassion and covert pleasures. For if you are still seeking to lose yourself, your courage and care and the comfort of private love affairs, remember, the heart of the world winces and grimaces as it watches you slide back into the cycle of smallness. This time, please don't stop at the lip of the personal cycle. This time, please don't stop at the lip of the personal cycle, thinking you've made it home. Use that momentum to spiral down exalted in the fight for a common fertility. The roiling heart, the storm of outrage from the heaving depths of our bodies for the precipitation of sanity, the durability of beauty, has become the urgent call for our times. Rain, rain, rain down on us, Great Spirit. Awaken our thousand petals to invigorate our every able limb, our taproots of grittiest wisdom, so we may sift through the sludge formed between our complacency and your call. Deliver essence once again as the outpouring of love, fiercer than any peace we have known. Just the last point, when I read that, I thought of this other thing I thought, just quick. It's just a beautiful concept to leave with. This 5 elements, embracing this whole spectrum of each element and its correspondences, each element corresponding to a different color. One day this image of a pinwheel came to me, right? And when our hearts break open and we stay aware, it's like that's the breath, that's the chi on the pinwheel. And the pinwheel becomes our radiant hearts when we embrace all of this. And this whole cycle of all the seasons and all the emotions that we embrace represents our inner fertility. It's how we bring the ecosystem of life and its fullness of body, emotion, and spirit alive inside of ourselves. And this, the title Rebirth is this. It's like holding the earth inside of us, right? We each need to be pregnant, become pregnant with an earth. Not a raped earth, but a full earth, so that we use nature to restore wholeness inside of ourselves, and then we give back, we rebirth in the cycle, the upswing cycle of service. We give back this fullness that we've cultivated and grown inside of ourselves by embracing all the elements and all the phases of the cycle as our big hearts, our big love. Thanks, everyone. Oh, one last thing. I prepared something. I didn't know how many people were going to come, and I didn't want to waste the paper, but I prepared like a, long list of kind of key points from tonight. So if you want that, I can email it to you. You know, just as a reminder, things to go over. And you can give me your email address here. I kept this over there, otherwise it gets lost. So, and there's a petition up at front there for geothermal, saying that we don't want geothermal here in Pune. If you haven't signed it, please do. If you want to, if you believe in that.
You have my email address.
I do.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you. That was very good.
Thanks for your Thanks, Lemon. Mm-hmm. Oh. Oh my God. Yay. Thanks, Matt. And thank you, Matt, for organizing this. Thank you, Kalani for hosting it. Thanks, you guys. And if you'd like to leave a, God, I forget all these details. Did you get any donations, Matt? Okay, great. If you haven't left a donation, you want to. It's all going towards geothermal activism here, making signs, getting paint.